Welcome to Orlando Matters. Today we're talking about sports, education, and money. This year, as you know by now, the University of Central Florida football team had a lot of success. But with success comes new challenges. Two high-profile players have already announced that they're going to enter the NFL draft. That means the school has to find some new players to fill those positions earlier than they anticipated. But it's not entirely a negative. The school has gotten a lot of attention across the country and a big increase in donations, too. At the same time, two young athletes are about to live out their NFL dreams. But we've seen this story play out numerous times. Young athletes getting millions of dollars only to be broke a few years after their playing days are over. Well, today we have a financial advisor for professional athletes. He's going to talk about how he counsels these young men and women, plus a local sports agent, also a UCF grad, here to discuss his balancing act between doing what his clients want and making sure what's right for them. We begin today with the success of the UCF football program. Our crews were on campus recently when quarterback Blake Bortles and running back Storm Johnson announced that they were entering the NFL draft. Holly Bristow has that story.
After a lot of deliberation and talking with my parents.
That was Holly Bristow reporting. Joining me this morning is former UCF tight end Darcy Johnson. By the way, Darcy also played in the Super Bowl, and he's now back here in Central Florida working with children in his foundation. Darcy, always great to see you. Appreciate you coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start with this. I mean, you're a big UCF guy. A great year, top 10 ranking. You got a couple of guys going pro, more to come. Overall, what does this mean for the university as they move forward?
I always feel like we already took the next step because, you know, maybe I'm a little biased being a former player, but this is great exposure for the school. Fiesta Bowl, BCS, the last year, I mean, it's just unbelievable. I think it's going to be a boost in recruiting. I think guys are going to want to come here. And I'm just so excited right now.
Yeah, let's also talk about Storm Johnson. He's going to be entering the draft. Blake Bortles, some saying might be a #1 pick, depending on how things line out. What do they not know right now as a college student that they're about to find out over the next year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to grow up really, really fast. Right now, going from college to the pros is a business. It's not going to be anybody there to check your classes, make sure you studying the film. You got to do it yourself, and you got to come to work every day ready for somebody behind you to try to take your job.
I think that's one of the big differences there is, all right, in college, you've got a lot of guys who want those jobs, but in the pros, man, you're churning over players so quick, so it may not be a long-term proposition for these guys. What did you say, 3.5 years is the average, right?
3.5 years is the average. I was fortunate enough to play 5 years, which is a lifetime in most jobs. Some guys play 10, 15 years, which is unheard of, the Brett Favre's. But yeah, it can be over just like that. It can be, injury can take you out. A team can feel like, hey, I want to get younger at that position, or your performance can't be up to par. So every day is, you know, you got to wake up and say, I got to go out here and give it my all because I may not be here tomorrow.
We're going to go through this later on about leaving school early and taking the big bucks. But a lot of people don't understand that when you get a contract in the NFL for 5 years, whatever it might be, that's not guaranteed money, is it? How does that work?
No, it doesn't work that way. Signing bonuses. Guys try to get those big signing bonus so that can give you a little bit of stability, and the organization can, you know, basically keep them trapped with you for a couple of years. So you want to get a signing bonus. If you don't get a signing bonus, you want to go out there and pray and every day just say, hey, go give it your all and hope they give you a chance to do it.
How old were you when you went into the pros?
I was 23 years old.
23. Were you ready for the kind of money that was thrown at you at age 23?
I was not ready for that kind of money that was given to me. Coming from a small town of Palaca, Florida, raised by a single mother, I had nothing. So when I finally got some money in my pocket and I said I can go in the store and buy anything I want, man, it's hard to resist that.
I've always wanted to ask an former NFL player about this. That first paycheck, I mean, do they give you a check? Is it direct deposit? What's that like the first time you look in your bank account and say, man, there's 30, 40, 50, $200,000 here all of a sudden.
Oh, man.
Growing up the way you did, that's life-changing. I'm
telling you, my first check, actually what I did with my first check was I framed it. I got it, I'm like, it was like $10,000, but I framed it and I was like, wow. I'm rich now. And little did I know that, wow, okay, that's $10,000, but now I got a light bill, I got a water bill, I got family wanting money. So it was just, a real experience that I didn't anticipate. I just thought once you get the money, you're good, but I learned really fast. More money, more problems.
Did you have a lot of good people around you to guide you at that point, or were you on your own saying, what am I going to do with 500 grand right now?
I mean, I wasn't on my own. My brother played 5 years professionally. He played 5 years before I got to it. So when I was coming in the league, he was leaving out the league, but he was buying, he had 40 cars in 5 years.
40 cars?
My brother had 40 cars. So that was an example that I had to see. I was like, I'm not going to spend my money on cars, but I end up spending on other things that I probably shouldn't have.
All right, let's hold it right there. We're going to have a great conversation today. Still to come on Orlando Matters, a lot of players have made choices that left them broke. One of the most famous, a high-profile athlete from right here in Central Florida. As you know, Warren Sapp made more than $82 million over the course of his career, but the Central Florida native recently had his house auctioned off and told the court that he only had a few assets, including more than 100 pairs of shoes. Coming up, our power panel will discuss how athletes get in this position and how they're trying to make sure these players don't repeat the past. It's coming up right here on Orlando Matters. Welcome back to Orlando Matters. So what's it like to have it all and then lose it all? More than a few athletes know exactly what that's like. The most famous names in football who lived right here in Central Florida actually experienced that as well. Here's Gloria Gomez with Warren Sapp's story.
Warren Sapp's days as a superstar defensive lineman for the Bucs.
Pretty amazing story. Joining me this morning to talk about sports, athletes, education, and money is our power panel. We have former NFL player Darcy Johnson still here with us. We also have Eric Hires with the Hires Law Group, also a sports agent, and financial advisor Mike Marini, who handles quite a few professional athletes, even written the book Finish Strong. So, Mike, guys, thanks for all you guys coming in today. Let's start with you, Mike. You were shaking your head during this story. You counsel a lot of professional athletes. What's the problem where you're making $10 million a year and you end up with no money?
Well, the problem is they're young and the money almost becomes like a drug. And the culture is set up for them to fail because it's, you start buying things and then you want more things and you want to keep up with this person and then you're getting bad advice from this person over here. And what they really need to do is understand that this money, the bigger purpose of this money is to put it aside and live off the interest that it earns, not to spend through it. But that's the hardest message to get a young athlete to listen to.
Well, you heard Darcy say that. He was 23. You're starting to get big checks all of a sudden. How do you advise young, no respect, but immature clients at that point, especially immature with money who've never seen this kind of cash?
Well, the biggest thing I tell them is we want to try to avoid what I call this aha moment. It's when you get to the end, the money is starting to dry up, okay, and you don't have anything saved, and then you say, and you start to feel the pressure, and then it becomes real, and you say, well, I wish I knew then what I know now. That's the big aha moment, and that's why I wrote the book, to try to get through to younger athletes and say, here's a few steps you can take to avoid the aha moment.
Did you have an aha moment? Or a lot of them somewhere along the way?
A lot of them, man. It was just, it was tough, man. It was very tough.
When you hear him talking, does that resonate? I mean, did you see that play out time and time again? Maybe not in your life, but looking around the locker room saying, wow, we've got a lot of problems inside this room.
Yeah, I saw it a lot. Getting that kind of money, just like you said, getting that kind of money for the first time and having someone that tell you to save your money, and they've never been in your life, and the people that have been in your life are the people just like you. They didn't have any money. So those are people that you've been accustomed to trusting, and when they say, hey, you need to save your money, and at the same time asking you for money, I mean, that can be a problem.
Eric, as an agent, you know what, you got to be pretty picky about who you choose, I would imagine, but you get young guys coming to you saying, hey, just show me the money. We've all seen that moment. How do you advise your clients? What do you say?
One of the first things I try to tell clients when we do sign and you get that first check, as Darcy describes, that's really the first aha moment, really, because they see earning potential, and what you have to balance that with is not just understanding that you're going to make this money, but it is going to end at some time. And so you almost have to start planning for the end at the beginning.
Well, these guys are in a unique situation because most of us, most Americans, make more money as you get older. The wealth is in the 50s and 60s. For these guys, by 30, Man, you better save a lot of money or have something else on the background, right?
Exactly. But that's really the challenge that we have as the professionals trying to counsel these younger players and these athletes is you really need to look ahead. The NFL lifespan, you know, for the career, by and large, is not that long. At most, it's about 3 years. Darcy was an exception. He played a little longer than that. And that's not the norm, though. There's a lot of guys that play less than 3 years. So when you start making money, you almost have to start planning for the end at the beginning.
Is that something you look for? We've talked about a Blake Bortles who seems to have come from a great family, seems very mature. When you're looking at potential clients, do you take that into account that this guy may not be ready for what's about to be presented to him?
Never.
Because you got to pay the bills too.
Exactly. What you're really looking for when you look for a client is, does this guy have the ability to play or make it at the next level? And that's really my general focus, because there are many athletes that play D1 ball, D2 ball, 1AA, D3, and some of those guys actually do make it. As an agent, I have to try and get the guy who I think has the ability to make it at the next level, that teams are looking at, scouts are looking at, GMs are looking at, for purposes of filling a role or maybe filling a spot or getting a team younger or satisfying a need. That's really where my focus is initially. Then, once the guy makes it to the next level, that's where the counsel regarding money management and things of that nature really becomes extremely critical.
You know, Mike, in your book, Finish Strong, you talk about a lot of these issues here. It's great money management in general, but it's really fit for these young guys. Is there a common thread among the guys that do well and the guys that don't do well? Is it a family issue? Is it the posse like we always hear about? What do you see?
The common thread is, well, most of them don't do well. The number of players that actually get out of the system with something left are probably 1%, literally. It's the guys that are really, truly set up for life. And it's not even the guys that make a lot of money. Warren Sapp, for example. It can be, you know, some younger guys. It's just so hard to get a young athlete to listen to good advice, because generally the people that they're surrounded with are younger people, their friends, you know, and of course the family. Once an athlete makes it, I hate to put the family down, but all of a sudden it's like, hey, we won the lottery.
Okay, let's pause there. I want to talk more about the posse, the people that maybe we don't realize have to be paid by a professional athlete. So we're going to get into all that in just a second. Still to come, we will continue the conversation with the Power Panel. We'll look at some of the athletes that have lost it all, including one guy that burned through over $400 million. Make a guess. We'll show you who it is. Plus, the debate over staying in school versus leaving for the pros. What are your thoughts? We'll see what these three experts have to say about that age-old debate right here on Orlando Matters. Welcome back to Orlando Matters. I want you to take a look at this list. These are some of the players that have blown a fortune after their playing days were over. Pro golfer John Daly says he lost about $50 million over the course of his career. Much of his lost to gambling and drinking. Former NFL running back Travis Henry lost $25 million. Now, according to reports and on his Wikipedia page, he has 11 children with 10 different women. That's why he says he went broke. Former NBA star Scottie Pippen played for a long time, earning about $125 million, but he lost much of it thanks to some bad decisions, including buying his own private jet. And the most famous of all, the biggest one we could find, Mike Tyson. Iron Mike began raking in millions as a teenager. He made over $400 million over the course of his boxing career, and, well, we all know what happened next. Let's start with this. Does this surprise you guys? Darcy, you see these numbers, you see this kind of money. Does it surprise you that guys at this level lose that kind of money?
Don King took half of Mike Tyson's money.
when half goes like that explains a lot, right?
Don King took half his money, but I see it. I have friends that, unfortunately, they don't have any money anymore. They go broke, but you know, I'm gonna bring the focus back to myself. I played. I probably earned, you know, $1.5–2 million in my 5-year career. I wasn't a first-round draft pick. I was a free agent. I did pretty good saving my money, and when I got done with the game of football, you know, I had a ton of savings. I had a couple of $1,000s saved up to basically get me to, you know, my next, you know, career and what I wanted to do. Couldn't live the rest of my life off of it. So what I've done is basically say, you know, what I want to do, and at that point, I'm on TV with you. I'm talking to you right now, and this is something that I think I can be passionate about, talking about sports, talking about guys. So I have seen a lot of guys, you know, unfortunately go broke, but I want to be an example to guys to be like, hey, save your money. It's not going to last, and you can't save it all. It's impossible to save all your money, being that, you know, I was in New York. I had a ton of bills, you know, rent $3,000 a month. You know, you're getting a $10,000 check a week, but, you know, you got that kind of expenses coming in. I mean, it's tough. So
is he unusual? I mean, you hear a guy who is actually thinking ahead. Do you hear this much from your guys?
Rarely.
Don't even think about it.
Don't think about it, because prior to making it into the NFL, what guys are thinking about is, I got to get there. Darcy hit on a very key point where you see other guys that are in the league currently doing all kinds of things. And you hear keep up with the Joneses. You've heard that term. A lot of guys want to live that lifestyle. But Darcy's right. You got to be passionate about, you need to save your money, and you need to start thinking about that earlier than later.
Yeah, Mike, that's something I never even thought about until Darcy said it. Okay, you're making, say, $1 million, right? Well, Tom Brady's making $12 million. He wants me to go out and hang out with him tonight. I got to keep. He's part of the team, right? These guys deal with this stuff, don't they?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
That makes it tough.
The culture is, as Eric said, it's keep up. These guys are doing this. I got to be included in that. I don't want to miss out on that. That's what we're doing now. And they really can't see beyond the next 12 months in their life. They're actually too young. I don't think their brains are fully developed to have that maturity to realize that what are my 30s going to be like? You know, how am I going to get money when I'm in my 30s or my 40s? And that's, the wheels start to fall off then.
I want to save time for this. We have about 3 minutes left on today's show. It seems like everybody on Facebook disagrees with me when I talked about Blake Bortles and Storm Johnson. When that kind of money is laid out in front of you, I say you have to leave early, because you will never make that kind of money again. I'm going to get to you last. Do you stay in school for 4 years, get the education, or do you take the money when you have it?
I'm going to take the money, John.
You're an agent. But why? Why is that?
I'm going to take the money. Life is uncertain, and you don't have any guarantees, except in Blake's situation, you have an opportunity right now to earn guaranteed money. If Blake goes where he's projected, his contract is likely to be guaranteed, depending upon where he gets drafted, if he's high enough in the draft. Almost his entire contract, the first one, will likely be guaranteed, or he will get a substantial signing bonus. That's guaranteed money.
I think I did the math. If it's $20 million, if he gets his communications degree and makes $50 grand a year on average, I can't remember the number. It's like 200 years to make what he'll make in one day. It just doesn't add up. Mike, what do you think? Do you stay in school, or do you take the money?
You take the money, and then you get a plan to use that money to be able to live off of it for the rest of your life. Put it away and live off the interest, and then you literally can not only change your life, you can change your entire future generations' lives if you do it properly. Because that money will never run out if it's invested properly and you live off the interest.
I kept you for last because you had a chance to go early your junior year. You did not. You could have been drafted your junior year, right? What happened your senior year?
I mean, it just, well, junior year we went 0-11. So they had me as a late round draft pick. I was like, no, I'm gonna stay another year. The next year, I didn't even get drafted. So it was, you know, when you got an opportunity to get that kind of money, you got to go after it. And then one thing we didn't mention, you getting he may get $20 million, but, you know, Uncle Sam is going to come get his. So that's going to go to 10 right there. So we're in a different tax bracket, you know. So, you know, I would tell them to leave, take the money.
I would almost think you have to. You can always go back, and I've always said, you can always go back and get your education. Yeah. You can pay off a lot of student loans with $10 million, right? So you go from there. Okay, anything else you want to add that people may not be thinking of this morning?
I don't think so. I mean, you've done a great job with covering these topics and addressing some of these things that people may think about but don't really have the opportunity to get in depth. I think the biggest thing, if there are athletes watching this show, you need people in your life that help you make decisions. People are best when they have good people around them. You're not smart enough to do it all by yourself. Even I'm not. And
that's why you get a team.
Exactly. So you need a team.
Yeah. Mike, very quickly, anything else you want to add?
Absolutely. In my book, I wrote a chapter called Know Your Players and Their Positions, and I explain who these people are and how you find them, and you got to get the right people. You don't get your cousin, you don't get your nephew, you don't get your neighbor. You got to go outside the circle and get people who aren't drawn in because of your fame, people who have your best interest at heart.
Darcy, 30 seconds.
Oh, I mean, I had the opportunity to read his book, Finish Strong. It's an unbelievable book. I would highly recommend that guys go out and purchase that, and agents out there right now, go out there and educate your clients. You know, don't just let these young guys go out and be young guys, you know, immaturity, like you said. We are immature at that stage with money, and you know, unfortunately, the percentages are very high, and we're just going to continue to, you know.
All right, guys, we'll leave it right there. Thanks so much. Appreciate your time today. We'll be back to wrap up the show on Orlando Matters right after this.